financial services to handle inward and outward money transfer services in Nigeria. The new guidelines are in line with the provisions of the Foreign Exchange Act 17 of 1995 and other Financial Institutions Act that empower it to license and regulate bureau de change operators in the country to achieve set objectives. Now, the regulatory body strongly believes the steps taken will curb sharp practices with the foreign exchange market and provide support for the small-scale end users, the bureau de change, to grow. It also believes that the step will guard the market against inflation and guarantee security in line with best international practices. Now, how compliant are the commercial banks?
Several levels. Behind the scenes, banks turn to a smaller number of financial firms, known as dealers, who are actively involved in large quantities of foreign exchange trading. Most foreign exchange dealers are banks, so this behind the scenes market is sometimes called the interbank market. In line with the new policy direction of the Central Bank of Nigeria, its management has approved the review of the existing guidelines on international monetary transfer services to accommodate inward money transfer and funding of bureau de change. CBN also frowned at the practice where dollar was being used in local transaction in the country, a development that has negatively impacted the conduct of monetary policy and undermined the cashless policy initiative. It has also condemned the practice where some operators own several bureau de changes with the sole aim of buying foreign exchange multiple times from the CBN window for profiteering purposes. What does inward money transfer and funding of bureau de change segment of the foreign exchange market portend for the Nigerian economy?
appreciate. It's still early, so we're hoping it should work.
Okay. And what are the steps that can be taken to ease, safeguard the Naira slide as it currently is?
Some of the steps have already been taken. Like, for example, this encouraging alternative sources of foreign exchange is already being taken. So it's now left for time for some of these measures to kick in. Diversification of the economy is something as well, because right now the major source of foreign exchange earning for the country is petroleum sector, which has experienced a lot of problems of late, which is part of the reason why substantial enough to increase the supply and thereby reduce the value of the naira vis-a-vis other foreign currencies, then you have a situation where imports become cheaper. And as such, if the things which local people need, as in internal people within the country need, becomes cheaper, and that way it makes their lives better, ultimately, because they are paying less for the things they used to pay more for.
Well, that report sets the tone for tonight's discussion. Let's introduce our guest to you. I'd like to welcome to NTA Tuesday Live Isaac Okorafor. He is Acting Director Corporate Communications of the Central Bank of Nigeria. Thanks for being with us here.
Thank you, Cyril. Good
Right.
evening, viewers.
Let's also welcome Let's turn to the Acting Director Corporate Communications of the Central Bank, Isaac Okorafor. Now, just what is the thinking behind this? Because quite a number of Nigerians, ordinary folks like me, we're wondering, is this a somersault in CBN policies? What does it portend? What actually does it say?
Thank you, Cyril. It is not a somersault. Of course, we all are aware that the country is going through quite some economic challenges, and as remittances by way of, ensuring that every single dollar that is remitted by our hardworking people abroad is received in this country, and that it impacts on the reserves, foreign exchange reserves of Nigeria. That's precisely what we are trying to do.
Now, how will this, because the general cry around the country today is that it's extremely difficult to access needed foreign exchange. Now, how will this improve the situation?
Well, the value of the naira
international money transfer services in Nigeria. And at the onset, three companies were licensed to operate. That is REA, MoneyGram, and Western Union. But that was because they met the minimum requirements for the registration. We have set guidelines and for the registration of
As to now determine the CBN coming up to revisit this issue?
well, at a stage, we observed that they were not bringing in the dollars as required. And CBN reviewing everything had to step in and say that, look, all remittances, process of international money transfer services should be inflowed into this country in dollars.
Okay.
Because it was observed that the beneficiaries here will get
you were asking whether there was a breach. Yes, there was a breach. And the breach was that, apart from the three that he mentioned, a lot of other players crowded in who didn't even bother to, get the approval of the central bank. Now, what that means is that they are flying below the radar, and that means that they are also not being regulated. And that's the first thing. The second thing will be that, then those people, the monies that they're collecting doesn't impact on Nigeria. The World Bank would say that Nigeria gets about $20 billion in terms of diaspora remittances every year. But the record at this end, officially, can actually ring from this system to say, out of this 20 billion, how much of it can we actually get into the system? If we can get, let's say, 18 billion, if we can get all of the 20 billion, why not if not? That's going to make Nigeria a little bit comfortable. And of course, it's going to also strengthen the Naira. The current panic, whereby we see a kind of free fall in the value of the Naira, will abate to a certain extent. So I think that is it. That what the central bank people who want to go for health and all the sundry kind of things. The bottom line is this: the outflow will be affected by the inflow. The more inflow you get, the more you can fulfill the outflow. However, right now we're saying that we're not getting enough inflow, and something needs to be done about it. Yes.
Okay. Well, we'll return to you, but let's go over to our Kaduna studios and have Professor Garba Ibrahim Sheka, who's there, and well, you've had the benefit of listening to the three gentlemen here. Give us your impressions on this policy of the central bank.
Well, actually, I think this is a commendable effort by the central bank, because initially when the BDCs were banned, net. You just go and stand in somebody's shop, maybe somebody operating a black market, and he will be speaking to your uncle or somebody in US or UK. Then they will just negotiate. I am giving your agent here so amount of dollar or pound sterling, while in Kano or in some part of the country, you just receive naira. So these kind of things actually increased when the BDCs were actually blocked. But now that they are officially reintroduced into the scene, I am sure most of these things will now be formalized, and they will no longer go into that, because most of the users of that patch
And of course, especially Nigerians, when Nigerians are under pressure, they become so ingenious. They devise all kinds of things to circumvent that policy. And so as a policy maker, you also have to go ahead of them. You have to plug the loopholes, so to say, to ensure that the policy.
The question usually is, what is there to ensure that there would not be a return to the earlier days when, like he said, people were flying below the radar?
Now, we need to understand the context of what Tokwe said. You know, in Nigeria, we have 3 licensed money transfer operators. And I think we are in the process of considering some other applications. Okay. And probably very soon, some others will be licensed too. Now, some of these people who perpetrate this racket operate outside.
Okay.
And we have not stopped the operation of any licensed money transfer operator in this country.
All right. Our phone lines are open already, and we have a caller from Lagos. Philip is calling in from Lagos. Hello, Philip. Go ahead. Do we have Philip on the line from Lagos?
Yes. Hello?
So, Philip, let we find out that says the transaction and other charges will be borne by the customers. How will this be monitored in Nigeria? Because well, so as to avoid people being shortchanged.
The transaction charges, well, if you are paying from offshore, the sender will normally pay commissions there,
Right.
which will be probably regulated by the foreign country.
And then would there be other?
When you come to Nigeria, of course, the agent bank
Yes.
will take some charges
Right.
because the agent bank will pay the receipt.
As the charge, you are free to write to the CBN. You can send an email to cpd@cbn.gov.ng. That's Consumer Protection Department
Okay.
at cbn.gov.ng.
All right. We'll return to this issue of consumer protection, but we have another caller from Abuja here now. Way is calling in from Abuja. Hello, Way. Go ahead.
Yes. Sorry. Good evening. How are you?
Good evening. Go ahead.
I have a problem.
$5,000. That is our first position. They are providing a good service. The only thing is that some of them have been found to be engaged in very sharp practices like round tripping, and and that was why there were attempts to really look at them very well. But as for their usefulness, I think they are useful. And that ties back to your first question, the rationale for subsidizing BDCs with Nigerian money. I'm quoting you. We do not subsidize BDCs. We have never done that. BDCs, of course there are BDCs abroad. Of course, within the context of dollar scarcity too, foreign exchange scarcity that we experienced because of the decline and collapse in the prices of petrol, crude oil. Now, BDCs play an important role in the economy. There are BDCs abroad. BDCs are supposed to collect dollars, buy dollars from people who visit our country, like tourists. Collect those dollars, and then those who are going out, when you are traveling out, they also sell the same dollars to you. Okay. But they are not supposed to be buyers and sellers of large amounts of
Oh dear. Well, we missed that out. I don't know if any of you gentlemen made some sense of it. But sticking with the first, the other question raised by Wei about thinking whether the BDC should be reviewed or scrapped. Let's put that question, interesting. Let's put it to Professor Shekhar in our Kaduna studio. Do you think that the BDCs should be scrapped?
In the first instance, the VDCs are not supposed to be scrapped because, like one of the panel members has rightly pointed out, they are providing an economic service. The BDCs are many. Of why was it that the BDCs were actually subsidized? I think the question seems to have, I mean, it's supposed to be something we consider because it's not, to him, as soon as the foreign exchange is now floating in the market, it's been determined by the market forces. The exchange rate just increased from 197 to about 281 naira in just one night. So I think to him he will suspect it is just
From since from December, I transferred money from First Bank, from FCMB Bank to First Bank, and yet there is no any response.
Right. Okay. Well.
Yeah. Bashir. Bashir, have you brought it to the attention of FCMB?
Well, he probably has dropped the line. I don't know. But, oh, okay, Bashir is still on the line. there were some others who might be licensed and would like to find out what it takes for new entrants to get in. Right after we take this call from Marshall from Delta. Hello. Well,
Yes.
I
My question is, the federal government should have a modus operandi to regulate the foreign exchange transactions so that people can bring in their own foreign exchange so that the cost of bringing it could be cheaper for the common man.
to be able to get CBN license. If you are able to meet up with the conditions stated in the guidelines, yeah, then you of course be subjected to the review of those guidelines to ensure that you have actually met them. And it requires a lot of time because what we are mindful of is the issue of the economic benefits is there, but you also think of other forms of issues like financing terrorism and money laundering. So we go beyond the ordinary to check for all these things to know that this
banks to put their money, because a lot of people are very skeptical about putting their money in the bank. That is the first question. What are you putting in place to forestall the recurrence of these incidences that have been disable our banks in some years back? And number two, I find it very difficult to believe that you have really regulations on this bank in terms of supervision. Because of how come when somebody in the system
regulations in place, and that some banks, he questioned the health of some banks and depositors having lost money put in those banks.
Anyway, what I want to tell Ola is that the health of the Nigerian banking system is strong as we speak, and that of course the Central Bank of Nigeria has given that assurance all through the weeks. You will recall that we took some preemptive action when we saw a few things happen, and we had to move fast to forestall a situation where people will begin to lose their deposits. That is the new system, and that is what we are doing at this time. We are constantly monitoring banks to ensure that they comply with the prudential guidelines, with all the risk management regulations that have been put in place. Nigerian banks, relative to what is happening elsewhere, are very strong. I can assure you that. So, Ola, do not fear. Put your money in any bank. We assure you that your money is safe.
Right, and the second issue you should raise.
On the second one, the way the banking system works is such that
Now, when we return, we will find out what the sanctions are for those who operate outside the guidelines and the regulations. Stay with us at NTA Tuesday Live. We'll be back shortly.
The struggle for independence had been a long and tough one. Our founding fathers and compatriots sacrificed their comfort and even shed their blood. We cannot at this point in history afford to spirit away their sacrifices for immediate but temporary gains of today. Let us emphasize what unites and not what divides us. Working for the unity of purpose with a stronger vision for a better tomorrow. NTA, growing with the nation.
Together, no matter where you come from, no matter your religion, we are one. Let's live together. Let's stop fighting each other. Let us live as one. It doesn't matter where you come from, your tribe or religion, man, woman or child. It doesn't matter who you are. Put Nigeria first. No matter where you come from, no matter your religion, we are one. Let's live together. How can we develop when we're always in crisis? Families have become refugees in their country. No matter our differences, show some understanding. No matter where you come from, no matter your religion, we are one. Let's live together.
Nigeria, the
issue, of course, tonight is the CBN guidelines for um, inward money transfers and what it can do to the Nigerian economy. Of course, you do have a lot of people, like CBN itself has said, who were operating outside the ambit of the regulated environment. To what extent have these operators created a dent in the economic fortunes?
Well, certainly, the moment they operate outside the radar, 5 million, they were asking him questions.
Yes.
That bank was doing its job. That's the way it should be. But of course, yes, if the central bank finds out that a bank is not reporting, a certain amount of money as stipulated, then the bank is in trouble. Especially even if it's found out back end, that's even more trouble for the bank. So it's better to do. So these guys who do the money transfer are meant to report. I understand that the established companies like Western Union, MoneyGram and Co, they do their reports in terms of who's moving huge money. So tied to tourism, especially.
And that's not talking about the guys you see all over the place who neither have an office to operate from, nor have any form of... But we'll come to that in a short while. Let's get back to the phones. Dixon is calling in. Hello, Dixon.
Hello? Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
First of all, I want to say that what you guys are doing, you are having a moment that most Nigerians are wondering, really, that the right decision? Is a direct question to you, sir, please.
All right.
Let me take
Thank you, Dixon. Yes, sir.
Thank you, Dixon. I think if you watched the television earlier today, you would have watched and you would have listened to how the CBN governor explained it. Now, this is the scenario. First, I want to say that it is not a subsidy, the way you defined it. And secondly, these people who are going on pilgrimage had paid in money. There has been an understanding. And telling these people, well, you cannot go on your pilgrimage because the money you had paid based on the earlier agreement can no longer take you there. Or saying, okay, since this agreement had been entered into between the Pilgrim Commission and the Central Bank of Nigeria, let's allow these people to go. Because if you do that, a good number of them some of them had put in their life savings on it. And of course, the people save, quite a number of people save for this over the years. And so a decision was taken to say, okay, let them just go. This is for this time. And so I think that's the much I can say there.
All right. Thank you very much.
They are allowed to be in those points and be collecting those small money. If we are talking from now to Jericho, we lose a whole lot of money because those people are making more money than the organized GDC. And it's not good to our economy, and it's not good for our country too. Thank you very much.
All right. Thank you, Cosmos. Well,
Cosmos, I want to start by saying God bless you. At the Central Bank of Nigeria, we also worried about the activities of black market people, and any
always been asked by many Nigerians. And issues like remittances, the question usually is, how will this impact positively on the economy? Now, people are saying, yes, you can look elsewhere in the world. You don't see where, like someone once raised a question, where the government gives out money to operators to sell and make a profit. So now we're looking at 20 billion, you say, some 20 billion from the diaspora. Is that the only way to go? How do you respond?
It will be, it will make no difference, and the breeders, the black marketers will find it very difficult to survive. Coming back to the question, really, most of the, problem that we have discussed earlier is the fact that this money that is coming from abroad, that we expect to come from abroad, either when it comes, it goes into a way that is not normal, or it doesn't even come into the country. It goes into another places, or it gets into other activities. At us, the domestic producers mostly depend on imported raw materials, and those who are importing commodities, also importing at a very high rate. So if the domestic production, the cost of production is high because of the exchange rate, and probably because of the monetary policy rate, which has also been increased. If these are allowed to continuously affect the cost of production, then really the economic environment is not going to be conducive for investors to come. Investors are universal. They can invest in Nigeria and elsewhere. So if investors, why are investors flooding the and imposed policies, well implemented policies can help the economy. But really, if we remain the way we are, either thinking that things will work out by themselves, the market forces will do whatever they are supposed to do, then really we are deceiving ourselves. And the earlier we understand this, the better. The foreign currency is supposed to come from many sources, not only from the government source. And if we have diversification in the sources, good of ourselves, because we are doing it for our country, and if we do it for our country, we do it for our family, and we do it for the peace of the country. So if really everybody understands that, then I think we may go a long way.
All right. Thank you very much, Prof. Well, the calls are still coming through, and yes. No, we don't still have him on the line, do we? Okay, fine. Now, you had the prof there, yes. And the regulations are in place. So we ask at this point, well, what's it that would be by way of sanctions of those who breach the regulations? Yes, regulations we have breached in the past, and
compliance.
All right, let's hear from Chukuka, who's calling in from Undu. Hello, Chukuka. Hello.
It is not coming.
Well,
Hello.
oh, okay. Yes.
Hello.
Yes, go ahead.
Hello.
You must have heard about what is happening in Kebbi State. Kebbi State, in 1 year, 80,000 farmers are giving this country over 1 million tons, over 1 million tons of rice. Nigeria, our annual consumption is 6.1 million tons. And we've been importing rice from India, from Vietnam, from Thailand, and these are rice that has been kept for like 7, 6, 7, 8, 9 years. And money. That same thing goes to tomato, goes with tomato. Even palm oil. Nigerians should realize that the situation has changed. Our attitude has to change in consonance. And until our attitudes change, we will never stop talking about foreign exchange. We can work, we can live happily in this country without talking about foreign exchange. Okay. If only our attitude can change.
transferring their children out of this country. What would an average person do to get foreign currencies for his child who wants to school abroad?
All right.
These are my two questions. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Ado.
Okay.
Well,
Thank you, Mr. Ado. Let me take your first question. You want to know what the CBN is doing in ensuring that people who put money in their houses, that they are arrested. Aiding or abetting that kind of activity, that bank will be rightly sanctioned. That is what the rule says. But as for going into people's houses to see where they buried money, the Central Bank of Nigeria does not have the statutory capacity to do that. It is the work of law enforcement agencies. Okay, on the issue of money for students abroad, anybody who wants to send money, either school fees or student maintenance allowance,
to Oshun, where Mahin is calling in from. Hello, Mahin. The caller from Oshun.
Hello, good evening.
Yes, good evening.
Hello, good evening. Can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead, please.
Hello, good evening.
Go ahead, go ahead. We're waiting to hear.
Well, what's the name again? Mahir.
Maheen.
Maheen. Rahim. Well, I will advise that you go to an office rather than buying on the street. And when you go to an office of a licensed BDC, I'm sure you will know it because we will be more organized. And if you are in doubt, you can ask for the CBN license to operate. The distinction is only agency is, you can only be an agent to an international money transfer service.
Okay. Now you say overseas partners.
Local IMTs, yes, operators could have overseas partners.
All right. And then you talk of a minimum of $10 million, right?
Yeah, net, a minimum of 10.
If a bank customer, for any reason whatsoever, is not satisfied with the service he or she is getting from his bank or her bank, what they need to do is to lay a complaint to the bank saying this is what is going on. In most cases, the bank will require like 2 weeks to resolve the matter. If it is If it requires sanctioning the bank, they will do that. If it requires paying you back, they will do that. In fact, we have refunded to customers a whole 26.2 billion so far.
All right, as we begin to wind down, let's go back to our Kaduna Center, where we have Professor Shekhar. Prof, a lot's been said.
Now welcoming back the Bureau d'Exchange back to the scene of foreign exchange market at official level. I believe since we are now trying to a little bit deregulate further the economy, allowing the market forces to really determine a number of economic variables, then we really have to be very careful, because market forces cannot do everything for us. They cannot automatically do everything. They have limits, and not only in Nigeria. Of the activities ended in the financial sector, and then at the end of a very long period there were no results. So we don't expect that. We really want we want to see results now, and if we are to see results, so we keep monitoring. As soon as something goes away the way that we don't expect it, it should be put back on track. But I think it's really the world itself is dynamic. Economic policies are supposed to be dynamic, and I think the policies are so far so good. The only thing that we are afraid is if we allow Nigerian factor to come in,
everybody talks about, oh, we need dollar, 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 and all that stuff. So we seem to be living for the dollar. However, our focus should be more in terms, when we talk about even diversifying the economy, our focus should be more on economic sustainability. It should be about how self-sufficient the economy is. Even if the government itself begins to think in terms of everything that Nigerians need, for every 100 naira that you earn in your salary, what do you use it for? And in those things you need to buy, what Nigerian alternatives are available? If you begin to look at it in
tonight's program.
Thank you, Prof, for being part of tonight. Very much, you're welcome.
Right. And Tokwe Faso, an economist, we thank you. Thank you for being here. And let's say thank you to Dauda Gottring, Acting Director, Trade and Exchange Department of the Central Bank of Nigeria. Thank you. And for Isaac Okorafor, Acting Director, Corporate Communications, also of the Central Bank of Nigeria.
I'm
Thank
so
you.
very grateful, Cyril.
Okay. Yes, I have you.
Thank you.
All right.